Welcome back to WD Magiccast for a week of July 23rd, 2023. This is episode 230. WD Magiccast, the show about the mouse, the Marvels, the galaxy, and beyond. I'm your host, Matthew Gracon. In this week's show, Dave Gallman and I sit down and talk about what Bob Iger has ahead of him and what's going on with the Disney company and what does this extension mean. Sit back and enjoy the show. Make sure to follow us on social media. We're Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube. We can be found all at WD Magiccast. Search us up and join along. If you have any questions or want to be heard on the show, email them. Email your voice message or your questions to email@wdmagiccast.com. All of this information is available on our website, which is wdmagiccast.com, as well as links to our store where you can get yourself some really cool merchandise. Make sure to check it out. A lot of it's on sale. Check it out today. Support this podcast. And on that note, we'll be back after these words from our friends and sponsors.
Hello there, WD Magiccast friends. This is Anthony King, the host of the podcast Force Ghost Conversations. This podcast is your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars, including the latest news, movies, TV shows, video games, books, and everything else in a galaxy far, far away. We can be found on every major podcast platform. Just search for Force Ghost Conversations. This is the way to your next Star Wars podcast, and may the Force be with you.
And now, on with the show. It's a time for celebration. It's a time for rejoicing. It's a time that someone's wife got a really expensive gift from a local jewelry store to apologize for the fact that his contract just got extended. Those people are actually one and the same. And that person who got his wife something really expensive for apologizing that his contract got extended is Dave Gallman, who has joined us again.
Yeah, right. Hello, Matthew. Thanks for having me.
Hello, Gallman. Always my pleasure to have you on. Yes. It's almost, you're on it more than I am.
Or at least the same amount as you are. So
getting there.
Yeah.
Do a few solo episodes and then you're on board.
Yeah, there you go.
But so I am pointing this out because I'm sure within the news cycle, things will change from the point that we record this to the point it's releasing. We're recording this on July 17th, which is a Monday, week and a half before this episode will drop. And we're doing this because I will be without internet access at the time that we'd normally be recording it, or possibly in a car driving somewhere with my family, which would make it very awkward trying to record an episode while driving. So we're recording this ahead of time, but it may be old news, but I think it definitely needs to be discussed because there's a lot of misinformation, but a lot of big important things that are out there. As I alluded, our friend, your friend, everyone's friend, except for about 5,000 people. Bob Iger, as to no surprise, and I think I might have alluded to this whenever he was brought back suddenly, his contract has been extended an additional 2 years. A unanimous decision by the Disney board to bring him back and say, we still need you. Stay on board, please. We're not there yet. And as everyone knows, there's a lot going on with the Disney company. It's not where it wants to be. It's facing financial hardship. I don't care what the news is saying to you. Most people are facing a lot of tight times and tightening the belt and struggling just because everything's getting so expensive and whatnot. The world is still changing and reeling. What's going on? What's the state of the movie theaters? What's really happening with them? Spider-Man and Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 is doing really well. But it's kind of the only thing that's doing really well in the theaters, even though there's other movies out there by many different studios. And but yeah, so it's a rough time in the theaters. Like, oh, this movie did good because it made $500 million, which a couple of years ago, it's not doing that great because it only made $500 million. It didn't make $1 billion, so it's not a success. So the way we're perceiving and looking at things is different and changing, and we still don't know what is good and what is not. But as a corporation goes, and they have shareholders, and all they look at is bottom lines and numbers, and it's not the numbers they want to see because it's their money that's invested more so than other people's. If you're a stockholder, you have money invested in the company, but they have more shares, so there's more money involved. So Iger is back. What do you think, Dave?
Again. He's back. Again. And
yes,
again.
He's back. Iger is back.
Every time you think that this guy's going out the door, they keep extending and extending. I don't think you're ever going to see that.
Every time I think I'm out, they're pulling me back.
Yeah, his career is like the never-ending career. I don't think he's ever going to leave. But post-pandemic, it's kind of, to your point, it's hard to see what's successful at the box office because you're not getting the emergence of streaming and post-pandemic, excuse me, it's hard to gauge that because you're not getting a lot of people in the seats at the theaters unless it's a big name, a movie, new Star Wars, new whatever, new Marvel. You'll probably see it at least the first week or two. You'll probably get the big numbers on that. But you'll have some people like on a lower movie, you'll go, you know what? It's going to be on Disney Plus in 3 months. I'm just going to wait because I have my subscription. I'm just going to wait the 3 months. So it's you're not spending the $20 or whatever per ticket, at the box office. You're getting it just on your subscription. So it's I don't know. I'm glad I'm not in his shoes, but I also wonder with a lot of did Disney take on too much when they tried to take over the world, basically buying Lucasfilm, buying ESPN, buying Hulu, buying this, buying that. Did they take on too much? And now they're starting to take a hit on all that, so now they're trying to shave off some of that. Like I saw they're trying to get rid of, is it ABC? ABC and
We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
I don't think at the time when they were making these acquisitions that they took on too much.
Okay.
Especially whenever you consider the time frame that all happened.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking 10, 15 years.
Mm.
That this stuff all was being acquired over. So they acquired Lucas, and then eventually acquired Marvel, and all this stuff has started happening in taking on before that Pixar and the Muppets. Yeah. So there's two ways for a company to grow: organically and then by acquisition. So organically, there's only so far that you can bring a company. And Disney at that point through the 90s organically grew very well. But it was starting to run into more competition than they could organically compete with. Pixar. They had the deal with Pixar. But when that deal ran out, it's like, okay, what do we do with Pixar? Because now Pixar isn't a team member, it's competition or threatening to be competition. So what do we do now? So okay, they acquired Pixar. They worked things out, banged things out, and Pixar got welcomed into the family. And then it was one of the earlier major acquisitions.
Yeah.
You
On
know,
a side note, let me interrupt you real quick.
yeah.
Do you think Pixar currently has run its course as far as the content that they can come up with? Because it just seems to me, it seems like they've hit that wall with Pixar.
In some ways, they're still putting out fantastic animation. You don't have the same people there writing the stories, and people moved on, and that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's not the Pixar that many people associate with. And that's going to happen because that even happened with Disney. Because when Disney first started putting out animated movies, who else was doing that?
Right. And that's my point, because back in the day, you would look forward to the Lion King, to this, to that. You know what I mean? Every year there was, or every 2 years, there would be a Disney animated movie. That seemed to be put on the back burner. You know, they threw Moana out at you and stuff like that, but because they're kind of switching to the live actions remakes of all the stuff. But Pixar was the animated one that you looked forward to see. And now that's even like, that's kind of, I don't know. To me, like I said, I think they hit the wall with Pixar now.
In the 90s, it was a novelty because there was no other CGI movies, well done CGI movies, especially with such good story and stuff, that it was this oddity.
Right.
And then, like any other oddity, after a while, it becomes the norm. So it's, you're still expecting the oddity, but it's just like, well, it's not, it's what I expected, but it's not what I didn't expect. So there's nothing kind of that throws you the curveball. So it's hard to say that what they're producing is bad, because I thought Soul was beautifully done, artistically done, just a lot of great stuff out of that. I haven't seen Elementals, but from the people that I have seen Elementals, even just the snippets of the animation I saw, the animation's beautiful. What they're doing and stuff. It's hard to push an envelope that is so much bigger now than it was whenever they first came around. And at some point they're going to find a niche that hasn't been exploited yet and push that and go further than that. But at the same time, if you're looking at what Disney's putting out CGI wise, that's more like what Pixar used to do. You get these beautiful stories like Moana. Compare that to Brave, or Frozen. Compare that to Toy Story. As far as storytelling and the animation and everything. Granted, they're in the Disney style, but there's a little more cutting edge animation in that, and it's not. I feel a lot of times now, and again, this is kind of on par with a lot of studios, especially as they're growing up. Pixar is playing more of a safer bet now, like Elementals and Soul was not. Soul was done by Pete Docter, who's been there forever, who now runs, is the head of the animation there, head of Pixar. Elementals is by one of their new directors that they found through the Pixar Spark shorts. You go way back. I don't remember the episode. We had some people on from that, and so they are trying to grow people in-house and build them up, which is great, which is exactly what you should do. But there's going to be a learning curve, and you're still playing the safer bet. So we'll see what happens with Pixar. Which in turn is kind of the sad thing. Whenever Disney took over Fox, you also got Blue Sky Studios, which was putting out beautiful work and great work there too. And I get it. How many animation houses do you need under one umbrella? You had Disney Animation, Pixar, and now you had these Blue Sky. It's just like you don't need all those, and you can't feed all those mouths. So unfortunately, someone had to go. Blue Sky being the last one in will be the first one out, which is very unfortunate. I'm not justifying it because I love the work that Blue Sky did. You look at the Peanuts movie. I like the story of it, and I thought the animation was so true to the style of the Peanuts comic strips that it was just kind of uncanny, and it just they paid so much attention to detail and how lines moved and characters moved and just everything. It was fantastic. The Ice Age movies were huge with them. Rio, another
Rio's good.
beautiful animated movie. So they've done some really incredible work, and they deserve more. Ferdinand, animation wise, was beautiful. The story wise too, but they all can't be winners. So, but I wish in some way they could have integrated Blue Sky into like Pixar, because I think that would have been a beautiful marriage.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, that's not exactly how things happen, or maybe couldn't happen.
Yeah.
So, but in the end, do I see Pixar going anywhere? No, Pixar's still going to be around for the foreseeable. They have invested too much and made Pixar too much of a name, because you have Pixar Place in Pixar Pier in California Adventures. You have Toy Story Land and Disney Hollywood Studios. You have all the Pixar attractions. So you've integrated it, which was part of the deal with them, or part of whenever they took over Pixar. It's like, okay, they're part of the family. Let's roll out the welcome wagon. Put Pixar everywhere. Put as much Pixar around the parks as you can to help drive sales to the parks too. So one hand helps the other, and this and that. Here we got the Toy Story Mania. We got, like I said, Pixar Pier. We got all this other stuff throughout the parks. And so for now, for the foreseeable future, it is so ingrained and intertwined into Disney that you can't really get rid of it.
Yeah, no, I didn't think they were on the chopping block, but it's just like when you're at that point where you're looking at where the money's coming from or which sections are not being successful, how they would handle that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So.
I mean, everything, there is no blueprint for this future. So it is hard to say what's going to be the correct course or the best course of action. It's like, do you keep Pixar to the streaming stuff? But that did not make the Pixar people happy, and rightfully so. They didn't make the Pixar people happy, because they spend a lot of hard time and a lot of work and energy and dedicated to their craft to create these movies, these stories for people to see on the big screen. And the biggest screen you're going to see them is, the 98-inch screen that someone has in their house, or the projection screen. You're not going to see it on the silver screen in a movie house. So you're not going to be making friends with Pixar that way.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But at the same time, if you put the movie out and you spend the money to put the movie out and people don't go see it anyway, are you really still doing it justice?
True. Because because it could be a catch-22. Oh, the movie flopped at the box office, so when it comes to streaming, I'm not going to watch it because it didn't do anything.
Right.
Right.
We were just talking about Lightyear.
Yeah.
It didn't do well in the theaters for one reason or another. And I like, do I really want to watch it? Do we really want to watch it? And I finally sat down several months ago, and watched it and went, I'm sorry I didn't get to watch this earlier.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was very well done. Pretty solid story. I mean, it wasn't the best movie, but it was a very solid movie. I liked the direction that they took things and kind of explained things. There were some questions I had about how things played out. Like, wait a second.
Yeah.
But all in all, it was a solid movie. I thought this should have done a lot better because it actually is a enjoyable
Mhm.
science fiction movie. I mean, it has everything that you need for that. And it was a novel idea of how they approached the story, and not a way that I expected it.
Right. Yeah, I had an issue with the ending of it, but that was it. Just the way they, I don't want to spoil me. I know it's been out for a while, but whatever. I enjoyed it. I sat there, took my daughter, we watched it. I'm like, what was all the why? What was all the hate towards this movie? So, I don't know. To each their own, but that's a movie that suffered from the blowback on it. I don't know.
But yeah, so it's and then we again, like you pointed out, that they've trained people, not just Disney, all the studios now have done this, that, well, I can take my family to go see this movie for $60-$70, including snacks or whatever, or do I just wait
Mm-hmm.
to either buy the digital copy for $25,
Right.
or wait a little bit longer to watch it on a streaming service that I am already subscribed to?
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, Guardians of the Galaxy came out in May.
Yes.
So here it is, July 17th, 2 months later. You can already buy the digital copy, which came out last month. And August 4th is when you could watch it streaming on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
That's what I'm saying.
and they've become their own worst enemies. Like, whoa, how come this is not performing well? Well, we did tell the folks that in 2 to 3 months that we'll be able to watch it on their streaming service that you're complaining that they're not, not enough people are subscribed to. So it's you're battling yourself really at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different time, but you remember way back in E.T., for example. Like,
yes.
Back when you could watch stuff on a VHS. Like, E.T. didn't come out till years, right? Or something, like, after the actual movie.
It was 6 months to a year before the VHS came out on for whatever movie it is. Now, a huge chunk of that is production time to actually produce a VHS and
right, exactly. True.
Bundle it and package it and create it and all that. That was a much longer process than burning a DVD that takes minutes.
Right, but you weren't going to wait till that VHS copy came out to go watch that movie. You were going to go and see it at the theater.
Right, because God knows when I will be able to go see this.
Exactly.
Right, but we've sped things up so much now that it's. I showed my kids Spaceballs.
Excellent movie.
Yes, thank you. Good parenting. I'm sitting there watching Spaceballs, and this is a movie that came out in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But the joke is so true today. 30 years later? Uh-huh. If you remember this point, I think you know where I'm going with this, where they are trying to find, the bad guys are trying to find the good guys. It's like, well, let's go right to the videotape. What do you mean the videotape? Well, we'll watch the movie. How can we watch the movie? We're still making it. It's the latest thing in home video entertainment. Yeah. Straight instant video.
Yeah.
The movie is the movie is out before you're done filming it.
Yeah.
So the videotape is out. The VHS is out before it's finished.
Yeah.
And they're going through it. Strangely enough, it's the entire catalog of Mel Brooks's work. But there's Spaceballs, the movies, and this is now, when's it now? That whole joke thing. But the fact is that the video is out as soon as the movies, or actually as the movie is still being made. Mm-hmm. He's not far off from the truth at this point.
Yeah.
That it's like, especially since everything is digital now, there's really very little that they'll have to do other than upload a file to make it distribute to, the Google Play Store and the Apple Store and Amazon and Prime and all these other places that you can purchase movies digitally and own the digital rights to be able to stream a movie. Make sure I get the proper terminology there, because you don't own it, but you own the rights to be able to stream it. Versus suckers like myself who still buy the Blu-ray disc of movies, or sometimes DVDs, so I have a physical copy, so that way I have a physical copy. Which I'm particularly happy when it comes with the digital copy. But yeah, so they've kind of done it to themselves. But it's a crime of the time that they are facing that, because it is so convenient, and everyone's so impatient now, because we've gotten used to that point that it's like, okay, I want this now, I want this now, I want this now, I want this now.
But they just have not figured out a way on how to capitalize on the I want it now,
Capitalize on it in a way to be able to justify all different points and views. Now, this is where I say we'll get to this later. Terrestrial TV. So there's an article out there. Bloomberg put this out, and then other sources have sourced the Bloomberg article talking about, during an interview, Bob Iger was talking about possibly selling off divisions or chunks of the Disney company.
Right.
In specific, he was talking about terrestrial TV, ABC, Freeform, FX. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because terrestrial TV is not what it used to be. It is definitely facing a lot of competition with streaming. Your streaming services now, you still people have cable and whatnot, but the numbers for those are going down, especially with the cord cutters and everything. People cutting back, realizing, well, most of the stuff I watch is through a streaming service, not on anything to do with terrestrial TV. So there is a lot of money still going into owning ABC, Freeform, FX, all these other stuff. And there's very little reward. The only one that actually makes a lot of sense to be still keeping around is FX, because they own a lot of NBA rights, streaming, broadcasting rights, which pulls in a lot of money.
And FX is like, I have watched some shows on FX. They do have some solid programming on there as well.
Right. ABC, you got the news and some stuff going on. You do have some sports stuff on there. But if you look at, are we fighting for sports rights on ABC, or are we fighting for sports rights on ESPN? ESPN's easier sell on that. Now, yes, they just let go a whole bunch of people at ESPN because of budget cutbacks. Not that I want to say that someone should lose their job, because I don't think anybody should have lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. But ESPN was also the fools to be able to say, yes, you are a big name sports person. I'm going to pay you this ridiculous amount, because why not? That's never going to cause us financial problems. Oh, look, it's causing us financial problems. We need to.
So a lot of those cutbacks were because of the contracts those people had.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
You're if you look at how much they were paying Matt Hasselbeck to, come on TV and, sit there for an hour, he was paying, a decent sum of money. I enjoyed Matt Hasselbeck, but at the same time,
Yeah.
It doesn't. Look how much they're paying Rex Ryan.
Mm.
A ridiculous amount of money, and the money could be distributed better
elsewhere. Yes. Well,
in a better form and fashion. Again,
and it would appear it would appear ESPN is in no danger either of leaving. Like they're going to hang on to ESPN as well.
Right. The talk was that they're looking to not get rid of ESPN, but maybe bring in a partner, someone like Fanatics or the places that they were suggesting was something like Fanatics or a few other, something like that, to help fund and promote and help with things on the financial end of ESPN, which strategically makes sense. Now, is this a short-term or long-term thing? Not sure. You have the ESPN Plus, which I'm surprised they don't advertise as much, and there's some bugs with it, which are finally starting to address, because you wouldn't be able to pause it on one device and pick it up on another device. It would just make you start all over again, which was rather annoying. So they finally corrected that. There's a few other tweaks that you need to bring it up to speed with the rest of the streaming services were, and they weren't doing that. They're starting to address that. Took you long enough, but yes, they're trying to get there. But then there's Hulu, and here's the big question. And this is, if you see the articles, again, not bringing up who wrote, who's advertising it this way. Certain other secondary media, Bloomberg being the primary, these ones secondary ones, advertising it as Iger is selling the farm and may sell the company too. Okay, let's talk about the 500-pound gorilla in the room. At no point has Iger ever said he's selling the company.
Okay, now, does Iger have, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but does Iger have the power? Because he doesn't own Disney, right? They have all the shareholders that own Disney. So how the heck can he sell Disney?
He can bring it to the board as a proposal, and the board would have to vote on it. And it is such a convoluted thing. Now, it's not like 20th Century Fox when they said they sold to Disney, because 20th Century Fox was owned by Murdoch.
Okay.
Disney is owned by shareholders. Long has been the day since Disney was owned by one person.
Right.
That would have been able to do that. Now, he is CEO. He is head of the Walt Disney Company, but he does not have sole discretionary power to say, "Hey, Dave, I have a company. You want to buy?
You want it? Yeah. Have at it."
So yeah, he can't do that.
Right.
A company could come in and try a power bid, and then the whole the hostile takeovers and everything, which Disney faced in the 80s. Which is part of the problem that they ended up having, was because they took on a lot of bad debt intentionally to make themselves unable to be taken over. Which is how Roy Disney ended up bringing in Eisner, and you had that whole thing, and Disney went through the changes in Eisner through the Disney decade, and that's a whole another episode. But yeah, he cannot sell Disney. He is not looking to sell Disney. Disney is not being bought out by Apple.
Yeah, that was one thing I saw too. That he was going to sell it outright to Apple. I'm like, what? Did he run that by the higher ups first? They may have an opinion on that one.
This is speculation. This is people out there just. Well, if Disney was to be bought out by somebody, who would buy it out? It's like Warner Brothers got bought out by Discovery. Okay, yeah, the Warner Brothers has been in a lot of financial trouble for a long time, because if you look at the Warner Brother timeline since the 80s, it was Time Warner, because Time Magazine owned them. Then it was AOL Time Warner because they partnered up with AOL.
Yeah.
Then they sold off AOL. Then it was back to Time Warner. And now then Time got rid of them. Then they were just Warner Brothers, and then they, Warner Discovery. So it's like it's been a long history of joint partnerships and not being an individual thing. Universal Studios is now owned by Comcast, a cable company.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
speaking of Comcast, aren't they supposed? I think that's with Hulu, right? Like, I think that was a part of it. They have to buy a part of Comcast to get the full rights of Hulu, so that they can do their combo package or something like that. Like, they wanted to combo Disney Plus and Hulu together. But I think
nice transition. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So speaking of Universal or Comcast, yes, they own a 33% share in Hulu, because whenever Hulu was created, it was created as a partnership between Disney, NBC Universal, and CBS, Fox. And over time, different parties left or do whatever. So it came down to just ABC, Fox, and Universal. Now Disney acquiring Fox, they have the majority of it, but a 67% majority, leaving 33 to NBC, which during the part of it, it's like, okay, you can keep around of it. We don't know exactly what we're going to do with it. Either they sell off the majority of it, they sell their share, which is the 67%, back to Comcast, which they have Peacock. So it's just like, okay, so what are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, Disney buys the 33% share, which is, I think they were estimating to be about $8 million, which is what they're also guesstimating would be what they would get for selling off ABC, Freeform, and FX. And then we integrate it into stuff. So Hulu's got the weird thing that, okay, it only does so much in the United States, but it's got some interesting extensions internationally. So it's like they don't know what to do with it, and they're at this point they're looking to merge it into Disney Plus and being a part of Disney Plus.
Yeah, see, that's what I was gonna, because I have subscriptions to both of those, so I'm like, I wonder what that merger would look like. Is it still two separate apps? Is it on, is it going to be a combination of, it's just going to be Disney Plus and you can access the Hulu stuff on Disney Plus? Like I have questions.
I think eventually, yes, that's what they're going to look to do, because it's like, do you have, speaking of Warner Brothers, do you have Max?
Me? Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So it used to be HBO Max. Now it's just Max.
Right.
But you know how you could go on. You have the different portals. So you got the HBO stuff. But then you also have the Cinemax stuff.
Yeah. True.
And then you have the Discovery stuff. So you got kind of the different portals of it. Then Hulu would be like a portal in Disney Plus. Which, I mean, you already have the Disney, the Marvel, the National Geographics, and the Pixar stuff. And somehow they would integrate it with that. Inevitably, what they should do is include ESPN Plus into that and just make it all one giant umbrella. And I think in the long run, that's their goal. And which they haven't said. That's speculation. Yeah.
Right. No, but that would make sense. And then just hit you with one price for that whole entire bundle and be done with it.
Right. Which I think is the direction they're going. And I said that a while ago, because especially when they said they're going to start pushing the border of what is allowed on Disney Plus, because I mean, now you can watch Deadpool and Logan on it.
Sure.
Not not necessarily the family friendly stuff that everyone expected. So you get a lot more of that, but now you got a lot more freedom. You can watch Venom on it, you can watch this and that and the other things. So I still say I feel Disney Plus is one of the better values out there for streaming services. I still stand by that. I still agree to that. Because there is a lot of enjoyable content on there. Some of it is muddled. You have to try and dig around and find, but it's on there. It's on there. Are they looking to get rid of Disney Plus? No. No time
No.
soon. Is it doing financially as well as they want to? No. For the past several months, neither Netflix until just
Yeah.
this week, last week, the past couple of days, it all of a sudden jumped up and they did really well for some reason. It's kind of how the tides turn. It's like, okay, this is where people want to spend their money now.
Right. I think a lot. That's exactly it. Like it could be shows that are dropping. Okay, now I'm gonna re-up my subscription on
Yep.
there to catch up on the new show, and then when that show is gone, I'm gonna shut it down. Which is why I think Disney Plus is kind of smart in that way, because they always have something for me anyway. There's always something always coming out that makes me want to keep the subscription so that I can keep watching, the stuff.
For the nerds like us who are into Star Wars and Marvel and everything, yes,
Right.
we got Secret Invasion going on now, and what happens in just a couple of weeks from now? Ahsoka comes out.
So
Great, and then after Ahsoka comes out, here comes Loki. So it's just like boom, 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 boom. We always have something to grab onto. Case in point, on the other end, HBO Max. I have a subscription to that, but it's more for the back catalog of stuff. They're not putting out any new content that I am jumping the bit to watch. I couldn't even tell you, besides House of Dragons, there's nothing else that is a current thing that is coming out on HBO Max that I could even tell you what it is, other than seeing some of the ads. Couldn't tell you anything about it. I'd have no interest in it.
And if it wasn't for Doctor Who, me trying to catch up with Doctor Who, I wouldn't be watching Max right now.
Right. My kids have been on a Harry Potter kick, so they've been watching we watched all the Harry Potter movies and then the Fantastic Beasts movies.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll watch some of the Doctor Who on there. So it's there's a couple things on there, but it's not as compelling. It's like if I had to sacrifice one, it's like, okay, buy Max.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like really grabbing me that's on there, particularly of new content. Like I said, everything is old library. Disney Plus, there's new content coming out. Like we just said, Doctor Who, November, boom, all the new episodes are going to be on there. I will be watching that every time one drops that day, because that's what I do. And then there's all these other wings. Are they cutting back production on some of these shows? Yes, because they have to. They need to make money. You can't spend more. As nice as it was, if there's an unlimited checkbook, then yes, we would be constantly getting all these shows and everything we want to. There is an unlimited checkbook that you do have to respond to. Okay, we're not making the money we need to, or we need to adjust the spending in places. So, sorry, Star Wars, sorry, Marvel, we are going to have to cut back on spending and stuff. We'll have to cut back on production a little bit. Is it permanent? No, because if that ship rights and Disney Plus starts pulling in money and becoming financially a lot more stable and producing, in what it has, they will start pushing that budget again and making more stuff. Again, case in point, why is this happening? Because when Disney Plus first launched, it was hugely successful. A lot of people jumped on board. Pandemic happened, even more people jumped on board. Hey, look at all this extra cash and look how successful, and the futures that everyone's predicting. We're going to be hitting these marks and we're going to be doing this. Let's start rolling out new stuff. Let's start rolling it out. Start producing all these shows for it. And that's what they did. And now it's like, okay, things are slowing down because it's not the new shiny thing anymore. And there's more competition out there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we have to cut back now. It's just kind of, the natural progression of how things happen.
True. I mean, yeah. I don't have the crystal ball to tell them how to get people on their app, 24/7, but because not everybody's into the Star Wars, the Marvels, and stuff like that. So that's basically who's paying their meal ticket. So how do you get those other people on? I don't know. Do you need the Hulu to be a part of it to bring people in? I don't know, because that's where you can get all the other TV shows, right?
Well, let's be honest, because if you could get Baker Mayfield to start doing Disney Plus commercials, I think more people would be, coming aboard.
Right.
Baker, I love you. No, yeah, just joking there.
Yeah.
But it does offer some interesting aspects, because Hulu does have the live streaming end of it,
Mm-hmm.
of terrestrial TV. Now you integrate that into Disney Plus, so it's an interesting possibilities of things to happen. Another example of those things that Iger's been doing, a lot of people aren't vacationing like they used to. People were locked up, so they were calling the revenge vacations or something like that.
Yeah.
But they're saying this is now kind of the tail end of that. So okay, things are changing at the parks. You notice that Disney World is starting to do more promotions. They brought back the dining plan finally, thank goodness.
Mm.
They are starting to offer discounts again on hotels and rooms and stuff. So that type of stuff that people have been used to and expecting or miss is starting to come back to help drive things. They're getting rid of the reservation system. Supposedly that's going to be going away to some extent. So you have things kind of writing itself and normalizing. It's going to take time.
The reservation, for picking your parks and stuff like
Yep.
that ahead of time? Okay.
Yeah, to an extent that's going away. Not fully yet.
Mm-hmm.
To an extent, they're starting to walk that back. A lot happened in the 2 years that he wasn't CEO, in between COVID and all the stuff that Chapek did. It's a lot easier to cause a reaction that goes badly than it is to repair a reaction that went badly, or repair an action that went badly. So it's like I said, when I said he's signing a 2-year deal, that's not going to be enough time. It is not a realistic time frame.
So it's a little afterwards, but the cutbacks that you're referring to, when you have a big budget, I'm assuming the Avatar films with James Cameron, those are big budget films. Mm-hmm. So those cutbacks were applied to him. So does Iger go up to Cameron and go, listen, bud, I know you like to make your 3-hour and 15-minute movies, and the animation and CGs and that gotta cost some money. We have to scale it back a little bit. Does that apply to him as well? Is Iger having that conversation with him, or does Cameron say, listen, dude, I'm making my movies how I want to make them?
Cameron is saying that. I am almost certain Cameron's going to say, I'm making the movies how I want to make them, because that's James Cameron.
Right.
Do I see Iger talking to him about that? No. Why? Because Avatar 1 and Avatar 2 made ridiculous money.
Okay. All right. So as long as you're bringing in the dough, you're
Right. Where you look at look at the Marvel movies. How come he's talking to the Marvel movies? Because financially, the more recent movies haven't been doing quite as well as they had in the past. So they're now quote unquote underperforming. And again, like I've said millions of times, they may be underperforming for Marvel movies. It's still a lot of other studios would love to have a movie that does as well as the worst performing Marvel movie. Right. So it is, the Avatar movies at this point are still performing. Now, is that still going to be the case whenever you're at Avatar 4.5?
Who knows?
Yeah. So the worldwide, according to IMDb, the worldwide gross for Way of Water, $2.3 billion.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize it did that well. Wow.
That's the worldwide.
Okay, never mind. He's got free reign to do whatever he wants.
So, let's go with the original and find what the reported number on that. Now, granted, this is going to include the re-release. That the original worldwide gross, I feel like I'm repeating myself here, did $2.9 billion.
Oh, wow.
So
and
the
that was
sequel.
When was that? When the original release date for the original Avatar? That was
09.
09. Wow. So it just had to inflation,
22.
man. Yeah, Way of Water did good. Man.
Way of Water, just pure numbers, eliminating inflation and anything else, did almost the same amount of money.
14 years later.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I don't pay attention to the box, so I didn't realize that it made that big. Wow.
But yeah, so it's no easy job, but at no point in the foreseeable future, unless if something drastic happens, which can happen anytime, I doubt within the week between we record this and release the episode.
Yeah.
But he's not selling the company, but is he looking to downsize and sell off underperforming assets? Yes, but that's the price of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add?
So for the parks, we know that, like we mentioned last episode, that the attendance is down, but he's working on ways with the deals that you were talking about to get people back there.
Yep.
Right. So I guess he's working on that. But as far as, do you think that they'll be able to rebound to get to where he wants financially, Disney Plus and the movies and stuff like that? Do you think they'll be able to fix what's going on right now? Or do you just think it's going to be in waves? Like they're going to hit a good wave and then it's going to sputter, and then, you know what I mean?
It's like anything. You're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows, and highs last, from months to years to, versus the lows that can again last months to years. So yes, I think at some point they'll get this all figured out, and they will be running Disney and the high end like it was in the 90s.
Yeah, it's just a hard dynamic to try with movie theaters still in the equation. It's hard to figure out. We keep saying this all the time. It's hard to figure out how to make it successful and profitable when you still have both mediums out there. How do you do it? I don't have the answer to that.
Something's got to give, and unfortunately, I feel that it almost feels like the writing's on the wall for the movie theaters, particularly now with with the writer strike and the actor strike and all that, the whole Hollywood strike coming up.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to show in the movie theaters to keep people coming, to keep them open whenever there's minimal to no new content coming out?
Yeah.
Versus the streaming stuff, well, you still have your back catalog and everything's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're set up for a better chance of survival than sadly the theaters are.
Right, but the only problem with that is you could have, I pay my one subscription, but I can have like 10 people come over to my house and watch the movie for that one price, as opposed to the 10 tickets that you would buy at a movie theater. So,
yes, but what are you buying at the movie theater if there's no new movie?
What are you buying at the movie theater?
That's what I said. Where are you going to go?
Oh, you're not going to go to the movies if there's no new movies, right?
Right.
Right. I agree, but I'm just saying, without the strike, if there
well, yeah, no, but if they're exactly.
Let's say they shut down the movie theaters altogether. Okay, no more movie theaters. Now you just have streaming. You can bring a bunch of people over your house, and you're only paying for that one thing. So that's where they're losing the money.
Did I tell you about what Xbox was going to do when the 360 came out?
No, you did not.
So the whole thing of the 360 is that it would have the Kinect, and you'd be able to watch anything and everything through the Xbox.
Okay.
This is what was told to me, so I believe this is actually correct. But you'd have to have the Kinect camera set up.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kinect camera would be able to tell how many people in the room. And if there was more than a certain amount of people in the room, it would black out.
Wow. Okay, I don't need that kind of technology. That's AI, man. I don't need Big Brother watching me in my house, man.
Supposedly, there are smart TVs out there that are on the market that have such capabilities already on them.
Wow.
Allegedly.
Okay. Allegedly. Well, hopefully
Allegedly.
they have a way to disconnect that so that you don't have it on at all times.
Right. So, but there's just saying there's plans. But it's, or you just, okay, there's a movie event, you pay the $25 or $30, or they just inflate that number more.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's going to be more than one, most likely more than one. The time for the few that are one person watching it.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, that's you just think that the future is going to be difficult for them to make money. Again, I don't have the smarts to figure that out. If you do
am certain they will find a way.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's weird time.
Oh yeah, and I do not want to be in his shoes, but I do feel like he is the best candidate for the job at this time.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Alrighty, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Thanks again.
You're my pleasure. We'll be talking soon.
Talk soon. Yes, sir.
Thank you again for listening, everyone. And let us know, what do you think the future holds for the Disney company and its entities? Again, join the conversation on our socials, where we can be found at WD Magicast on most major social network groups. You can leave us a voice message through the Anchor app or Anchor.fm website, or record one and send it to us via email to email@wdmagicast.com. Links to all these can be found on our website, which is wdmagicast.com. I want to thank you guys for your time. I know how little time we all have these days, and the fact that we get to spend some of it together truly means a lot to us over here at the show. Thank you for coming back week in, week out. Please share out on your social networks and tag us. Share out the link to the show that you're listening to. Let people know. The more people that can find out about the show, the better. If you really want to help out, leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast and on Stitcher. This way, they help promote the show as well. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. Just takes a few moments of your time, but it helps us out greatly. We have all 5-star reviews at this moment, and we need more. Keep them coming. Walt believed in a big Disney family, and so do I. So let's keep this thing growing. Don't forget to subscribe to the show while you're at it. This way, when new episodes post, you always know about them. And if you really want to help us out, really feeling generous, consider becoming a premium subscriber. Truly help the show out. You can do this over at anchor.fm/wdmagicast/support. You could also, like I said at the beginning of the show, check out our merchandise shop, where you get lots of really cool stuff there. You get something, you help the show out. It's a win-win for everyone. Because remember, this show is brought to you by listeners like you. In Japan, broken objects are often repaired with gold. The flaw is seen as a unique piece of the object's history, which adds to its beauty. Consider this the next time you feel broken. Never give up, never give in. Be your own hero, and let your light shine for the world. Now, I'd like to end this week's show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. I am not an economist, but things are not as bad as they seem. I have a great deal of confidence in our future. Again, that's from Walt Disney. Thank you for listening, everyone, and I'll see you next time.